All right, thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. My name is Claire Shepro, and I'm the Director of Admissions and Scholarship at From the Top. Some of you may be wondering what From the Top is. How many of you, can I just get a show of hands, have heard of From the Top? Awesome. How many of you heard about it for the first time yesterday when you talked to me at the expo hall? Okay, great. Spreading the word. So I'll start by saying that From the Top is America's largest national platform dedicated to celebrating young classically trained musicians. And we do this through live events, through video and radio broadcasts, through scholarships, and also through arts education programs. I'm here, we do this a lot of different ways, but I'm here today primarily to speak with you about our radio program, From the Top, with host Christopher O'Reilly, and also about our scholarship program, the Jack Kent Cooke Young Artist Award. But first, here's some quick facts about From the Top, the radio program. It is the most popular weekly one-hour classical music show on NPR. It's broadcast on over 220 stations nationwide, and we have an audience of about 500,000 weekly listeners. So the format of the show is a little bit like an old-timey variety show. We usually feature 5 or 6 different musical acts, and the show is half music, half young musicians ages 8 to 18 playing, and half interviewing those young musicians. And one of the things that listeners really enjoy about the program is that when we interview those musicians, we talk about everything, not just classical music. I mean, a lot of the time we will, but frequently we'll talk about other passions that these kids have. We're having somebody on the show in a month or so who used to be a world-class knife thrower, and he had to give that up to focus on classical music. But that's an example of the kind of breadth and depth of topics that we cover on the program. We have a national tour each year, and we tape radio programs all around the country. We always have 2 in Boston, which is where we're based, where I live, where the From the Top team lives. And we also will have them, in California, Texas. This past year we had 2 in Hawaii, which was really fun for everybody who got to go, sadly not me. We usually have 15 to 16 shows each year. I'd like now to show you a video that I think really encapsulates the From the Top experience. This was filmed a few years ago when we did a show at Chautauqua at their summer music festival. You'll see, since it's a few years old, it features our former music director, Tom Vinieri, and you'll also see some cameos of Hannah White, who I see in the audience, who was on that program. And the video focuses on Megan Yip, who was a cellist who was part of the program at Chautauqua and From the Top. It was a joint collaboration between us, but I think it gives you a really good sense of the From the Top experience.
Rolling. This is From the Top, show 308, Chautauqua, New York, 6:30:15 rolling.
From NPR, it's From the Top, celebrating the power of music in the hands of America's kids.
I read an article recently about the person who was responsible for the iPhone back in the day, and that, it was way ahead of its time. And he made an interesting comment, and he said that they got to the future first. And I thought, that's pretty much what we do at From the Top.
I thought that, honestly, the days before the show, I was a nervous wreck. I wasn't really playing that well, which was weird to me, so I was even more stressed out. But then the day of the show, everything just seemed to be so smooth and very relaxing and not as stressful as I thought it would be.
Wonderful things that are going to happen tonight. Are you guys ready for something wonderful? Are you ready for something wunderbar?
We heard about Megan, and I remember very distinctly looking at her and thinking, she's a kid we'd really love to get on the show. And then when we were reviewing the Chautauqua Music Festival summer roster, there was her name, and there was her age. So she's 18 and going to be 19 in a matter of days. And we're like, great. She still qualifies. She hasn't aged out, and so we jumped on that.
But cello was something that I really developed this relationship with, and it's not something that my mom, told me to go do, which, I don't blame her or anything, but this was something that I had decided to do for myself. And it's not a human, but you develop a relationship with the instrument.
For her to be kind of plucked from the pack and to be put in the spotlight and to say, we're interested in who you are and what you have to say musically, and to give her that chance, it's kind of validation that I think we can all use from time to time.
We're starting the whole show in about 6 minutes, I think, which will include a warm-up, a welcome from that kind of stuff. So I'd say the timing for you would be...
My biggest concern was that it was going to be a finite resource like fossil fuel, and that, populating all these shows that we do year in, year out was going to be real challenging. The truth of the matter is that there are more phenomenal young talents out there than I can possibly accommodate on the show, which makes it both frustrating and extremely exciting.
So let's see, can we go on to the, oh no, I can do it. Great, there we go. So I hope at this point that you are thinking, wow, that looks great. How do I get on From the Top? That's basically why I'm here. All of you who are here at the SphinxConnect are exactly the kind of young musicians who we would love to have applying, and I'll go over eligibility requirements more in a little bit, but From the Top has also enjoyed a wonderful partnership with the Sphinx organization, and we always feature the winner of the junior division competition. Let me tell you a little bit beyond what you just saw in the video about what it's like to be on From the Top. So we've got the 3 F's of From the Top coming up. So first one is fun. Being on From the Top is really fun. It's a unique opportunity to be part of a wonderful musical experience in a non-competitive environment. Secondly, you get to be famous. You get to be on NPR. It's the chance to reach 500,000 listeners as part of our weekly broadcast. And finally, after you appear on From the Top, you are forever, like it or not, part of the From the Top family. We have a wonderful alumni network, and I can't tell you what a good time I had hanging out in the expo hall yesterday, because not only did I get to speak with many of you who don't know as much about From the Top, but so many alumni stopped by who don't even necessarily know me, but have such fond memories of appearing on From the Top. And this alumni network is really strong and quite extraordinary, and a wonderful thing to be a part of. So, who is eligible for From the Top? So if you are between the ages of 8 and 18 and you have not yet enrolled in college, you are eligible. You do not need to be a US citizen to be on the show. The way that we define it is if you're not a US citizen, you need to have a significant training connection to the US. So if you're a permanent resident, if you are from Korea and have come here to study at Juilliard pre-college, all of that, you're eligible. I will say on the 8 to 18 note, I'll talk more about this later, but for seniors, we really encourage you to apply as early as possible in your senior year. At this point, really the latest you would want to apply would be early February, so it's pretty late at this point. If you are a senior and you would like to talk to this further with me, I'm happy to talk to you after the program, but if you're a senior, do apply early. And then we feature soloists, both instrumentalists and vocalists. We feature young composers. We feature chamber ensembles, or small ensembles, string quartets, piano trios, etc. And we also feature large ensembles, so youth orchestras and choirs. I will say about large ensembles that we don't tend to feature those groups unless we're coming to your hometown, simply because the logistics of traveling a youth orchestra are crazy. And I'll also say that there is no cost associated with coming on From the Top. It's completely free. We pay for travel and lodging for you if you're selected to appear on a program, and for a chaperone, parent or guardian, etc. So it's completely free to come on the program. And speaking of finances, I'd like to move to speaking about the scholarship program, the Jack Kent Cooke Young Artist Award. This is a program for young musicians with financial need. And the goal of this program is, we know, and I know you know, how expensive it can be to study classical music. And you need a good instrument, you need private lessons at least once a week, and the list just goes on and on and on. So this scholarship really seeks to eliminate the financial barriers associated with studying classical music. We've given out only over $2 million in scholarships since 2005, over 200 scholarship recipients. We give out 20 scholarships each year, and all of those scholarships are usually $10,000. And finally, you apply for the radio program and the scholarship at the same time. I'll show you more about that later, but there's a question in the form early on that says, would you like to apply for the scholarship too? You say yes, then you fill out the scholarship application as well. So there are many different uses for the scholarship. As I mentioned, instruments, that's a huge one. We love for students to use their funds to purchase instruments. You can also use them for private lessons and for summer or year-round music programs, pre-collegiate ones, not college. You can also use them for college and conservatory travel expenses. If you've been invited to audition at 11 different conservatories everywhere in the US and abroad, and you can't possibly afford that, you can use your scholarship for that. And finally, there are a number of other miscellaneous smaller expenses like instrument accessories, instrument repair, sheet music, performance attire sometimes. Basically anything related to your pre-collegiate musical advancement is a valid use of the scholarship. You may be wondering if you can use the scholarship for college tuition, and the answer to that is no. This is probably the number one question that we get, and many students fill out the entire application and say they'd like to use the whole $10,000 for college scholarships. That is not a valid use of the scholarship, and the reason for that is that there are a lot of college scholarships out there, and so this one is specifically designed to help you get to the college that is right for you. So the criteria for the Jack Kent Cooke Young Artist Award are, first of all, musical ability. The scholarship cannot be given without an invitation to appear on From the Top. So the two go hand in hand. And so because of that, the musical criteria, the musical level is the same for scholarship applicants as for radio program applicants. We also want to see that you have demonstrated unmet financial need. So for us, if your family's income, adjusted gross income, or AGI is over $90,000, you are likely not eligible. However, we do take into account extenuating financial circumstances like extraordinary medical expenses, high costs of living in your area, you have 8 other children in college, that kind of thing. So we want to see, and I'll also say that the average income of scholarship recipients' families each year is between $30,000 and $40,000. Next, we look for academic achievement. For us, we hope that this will mean A's and B's for you. A few C's is okay, we really don't want to see D's and F's. And finally, strength of character. We are looking for extraordinary young musicians who have the ability to overcome obstacles, who are tenacious, who are leaders, and who are committed to giving back to their community. So, at this point, I hope you're wondering, how do I make it on the show? How do I get to play with this guy is Christopher O'Reilly. He's the host of From the Top. And before I launch into the top tips for making your application stand out, I'll briefly say that the way that you apply is online. There's an online application on our website, and if you're just applying for the radio program, you just fill out that application and you upload 2 different pieces of repertoire. And I'll talk more about repertoire in a minute. If you're applying for the scholarship, in addition to those things, we ask for 2 recommendations, one from an academic teacher, one from a music teacher, and we'll also want to see your family's tax information, your academic transcript, and if you've taken any standardized tests, mostly SATs and ACTs is what we're interested in seeing. We'll ask you to send that as well. All of that information is on our website as well. So, From the Top's top tips. First of all, read the FAQs. 99% of the questions that we receive in the office, the answer to them is on the FAQs. I will show you where the FAQs are on the website. Here we are at our homepage, and you click on this little apply button right here, and then we've got two different sets. We've got general show FAQs, and we have scholarship FAQs. I will say we have just gone to a lot of effort to redo these FAQs to try and make them more user-friendly, and so if you're using them and you think they still don't make sense, please let me know. I'd love to know about that. But if you're applying for the scholarship, you should read both sets of FAQs. All right, so number one, read the FAQs. Number two, as we say in Boston, repertoire is wicked important. That means it's really, really important. You probably know this at this point, but From the Top primarily features music from the Western classical tradition. We do occasionally feature other kinds of music, folk, jazz, world music, non-pop genres. We don't do pop on the radio program. If you were to ever be featured playing one of these other genres of music, you would also need to demonstrate that you play classical music at a high level. Usually, if we feature folk or jazz, you'd play classical music in addition to that. So it'd be kind of a secondary thing. Okay, the gold standard for repertoire. Do we have any pianists in the room? Okay, great. I'll have a special message for you. But we want pieces written for your instrument and piano. Piano does not apply. We generally want those pieces to be between 5 and 7 minutes long. And the reason for this is because, as I mentioned, From the Top is an hour long, and there's a lot to cram in that hour. You know, we've got at least 5 different performers, if not more. And so we've got very specific time constraints. Now, you can submit a piece that is longer than 7 minutes. That's fine. It just means that we're going to have to find a way, if you're booked, to cut that piece down to fit in our time constraints. So if you have a piece that's shorter, better to submit that one. Also, if you have a longer piece and you think, gee, I could really make a great cut here, you can just go ahead and send us that cut version. It's not necessary at all, and you don't need to agonize over it, but if you have a really easy way to do that and want to send us a cut version, great. We tend to, I would advise you to avoid concertos and unaccompanied repertoire. The reason for this is that we don't feature that repertoire on the program. The concerto reductions can be very unforgiving for the pianist, and just generally what we want to involve our host, Chris O'Reilly, as much as possible. So we really want to see pieces written for your instrument and piano. So sonatas, show pieces, that kind of stuff is great. I encourage you to check out our website for ideas about repertoire that might work, and there are a couple different ways that you can do that. So here we are again at the homepage. First, this listen button is From the Top's best kept secret. I wish it weren't a secret. Every single episode of From the Top is available streaming here. So you can go all the way from our most recent show, which is 331, all the way back to show number 1 in like 99, which is pretty fun because the show has evolved a lot. So it's interesting to see the evolution as well. Secondly, we have an entire page devoted to all the young musicians who have ever appeared on From the Top. So if you click on that musicians button, you can see everybody's musician page. You can find your instruments, look at previous From the Top people's pages. And then finally, this search button is your best friend. So you can search for your instrument and see everybody who's ever played the cello on From the Top. There are more than this, you just can't see them all. But, and then the musician page looks like this. So here's Maria Sanderson, who won the Sphinx Junior Division last year. So you can see she performed on show 330 in Hawaii. She won the From the Top lottery in late November. You can read her bio. You can see that she was a Jack Kent Cooke Young Artist, so she received our scholarship. And you can listen to her, and you can see what kind of repertoire she played. So I encourage you to look at different people who play your instrument who've been on the show to get a sense of the kind of repertoire that works well on From the Top. This is not to say that we don't want new pieces on the show. Absolutely we do. But it's just a good way to get a sense of what might work. And then finally, if you do submit concertos or unaccompanied repertoire, or even if you don't, there's an optional place to submit an additional repertoire list, and I really, really recommend that you do, simply because if we're listening to you play and think, wow, she sounds great, but we can't do a Mozart concerto. Like, what else does she have? We can look at your repertoire list and say, hey, this would work really well. And then we'll give you a call and say, hey, you have this in your fingers. Do you want to make a quick informal recording for us? It just speeds up the process for us as we're booking shows, which does happen quite quickly. All right, so read the FAQs, repertoire, wicked important. Finally, make a recording that you're proud of. This might seem like obvious advice, but I'm going to reinforce it anyway. So record in a good acoustical space. We don't want you to go out and spend money on studio time. That's not necessary. We really want it to be as easy as possible for you to create a recording to send to us, and so we don't have any kind of professional level recording quality requirement. That being said, we do recommend that you, of course, find somewhere to play that makes you sound good. So maybe that's a church near your house. Maybe if you're lucky, it's your living room. Just find somewhere that's not too boomy, not too dry, somewhere where you sound good. From the Top doesn't take itself too seriously, and we like to have fun, which you'll definitely hear on the radio program if you haven't already. And we want you to have fun while you're making your recordings, but we also want you to be professional. Again, I hope this is obvious advice, but if you're doing a take of your piece and you mess up and you stop and you blame your pianist and then you keep going, don't send us that take. I hope that's obvious. That has happened. Don't do that. Be professional. Unless you are a senior, I really suggest waiting until you're ready and you feel like the recordings that you have are the best representation of your playing. I'll go into this more in a bit, but if you're not applying for the scholarship, it's rolling admissions. You can apply anytime, and we want to hear you at your best, so take your time. And then I just recommend generally that you always have someone record your live performances. You never know if you're going to nail it and say, wow, I wish I had that recorded. Like, I'd love to send that off to competitions or From the Top or whoever. And I'll say on that note that live recordings for From the Top, absolutely fine. Absolutely. And in terms of quality requirements, you can do it with an iPhone. The most important thing is that we be able to hear you clearly. We prefer video to audio, but we do accept both. But if you are doing a video audition, the quality of the audio is much more important to us than the quality of the video. All right, so number 4 is your stories are important. You'll see as you start filling out the application that we ask for a number of short essays. It is a long application, I'll say, but we hope that you'll have fun with it. And the reason that it is extensive is because we really want to get to know you in the course of the application and get a sense for what your personality might be like on the radio program, what kind of stories you have to tell. So I would encourage you to think carefully about these essay questions. They're short essays, but really share what you're passionate about. For a lot of you, that'll be classical music, I hope for all of you. But other people are really interested in physics or marine biology or knife throwing or have like a obsession with their dog. And we want to hear about all of that. We really value your stories, and we feature from the extremely silly to the extremely serious. So please tell us your stories. For scholarship applicants specifically, I encourage you to share your financial story. I am not the one who makes the musical decisions, but I am the one who reviews the scholarship applications and specifically your financial information and your scholarship essay. And so the more that you share with me about your financial picture, the better I can assess your need. And I think that often people are shy about sharing if they've overcome something really difficult or like if their family has really struggled. And I just want to say that cannot hurt you to share it with me. It really can only help you. And the better I understand your situation, the better case I can make for your need. Finally, just a life hack. It's good for college applications too. Don't write your essays in the little text boxes on our application. Write them in a Word document, copy them, paste them. That way, if you accidentally quit your browser, you don't lose all your work. Okay, so we've got read the FAQs, repertoire is wicked important, make a recording you're proud of, your stories matter, and finally, this one is really, really important. I mean, they're all important, but this one is maybe the most important. If you don't succeed at first, reapply. I cannot emphasize this enough. Most musicians who make it on From the Top have applied more than once. Many of them have applied twice, 3 times, 4 times, even 5 times. And we send very thoughtful decision letters to you that I think everybody views as rejection letters. And they're really not. Whatever we say in your letter, we mean it. And if we say we want to hear from you again in 9 months or 6 months or a year, we mean that. We absolutely mean that. Please don't be scared to reach out to me or my staff if you have questions, or if you have a special situation you'd like to discuss. We're here to answer your questions. Please read the FAQs first, though, as I mentioned. We're here to help, and you can reach us at auditions@fromthetop.org, or you can call our auditions hotline, which is 617-437-0707, extension 134. Okay, so here are some of the logistics of how you actually go about applying. So here we are at the website again. If you click on the little down button next to apply, you'll see be on the NPR show. That's what you want if you just want to apply for the show. And you have apply for the Jack Kent Cooke Young Artist Award for scholarship applicants. This is a screenshot of our online application. It's called Fluid Review. So you will need to make an account for Fluid Review. If you do that and for some reason you're using a parent's email address, which is absolutely fine, make sure that you put your name down as the username instead of your parent's name. When this happens, it's very confusing for us because then we say, oh, I heard like Johnny Smith applied, and we go to look up Johnny Smith and we can only find Mommy Smith. So please use your name, not your parents'. And then the question of when you should apply. So as I mentioned, for radio programs, it's rolling admissions. You can apply anytime. For the scholarship, we do have deadlines. We have 3 each year. The first one is in October. The second one is in January, and we've got one more this year, which is March 1st. If you can't make that one, the next one will be sometime in October next year, and we'll be announcing the dates, the specific dates over the summer. But so if you are a senior, you need to apply by the fall deadline. In that vein, seniors apply as early as possible. August, September is good. We book shows about 3 to 4 months in advance. So for example, at this point, we have booked almost all of our shows for this season, which is why we really encourage seniors to apply early. And then finally, regarding applying for a specific show. So everyone who applies to From the Top is automatically considered as part of our general applicant pool. However, as I mentioned, we do a national tour, we do shows all around the country, and we're always looking for local talent for those specific shows. So kind of your best bet is to go look up where we're going this year. So you do that under events. And then if you click this little radio button for national tour, you'll be able to see all of our shows for the upcoming season. So you can see we're going to Atlanta and Miami in May, New York in April, and then we'll be adding to this, probably late spring, early summer, we'll be adding next season's shows. So look at this page, see if we're coming anywhere near you, and if we are, I would encourage you to email or call those auditions email or hotline number that I gave you to find out more information about how to apply for that specific show. Usually the deadline is 4 months in advance of the show, but we're always looking for local talent, so that's a really good way to kind of get a leg up on the admissions process. So thank you all for being so attentive, and I'd like to, at this point, open it up for anybody who has questions. I think you can, might be small enough, you could just raise your hands. Oh, okay, sorry, you have to come over to this microphone.
So I had a question about applying for the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation. So when you apply for that, so you said you had to be invited to the From the Top show. Mm-hmm. So what if you were already on the From the Top show? Do you have to apply again? as well for that?
Right. So it gets tricky if you've already been booked on the show and you haven't applied for the for the scholarship already. We don't usually feature musicians more than once. If we ever do, it's pretty rare, but we would feature you in a different capacity from how we originally did. So if you appeared first as a soloist, we'd feature you then as part of a chamber ensemble maybe. But you can't come on the show and then get the scholarship later. You have to get the scholarship at the time that you're appearing on the show. So if you had been booked on the radio program and said, I really want to apply for the scholarship, we want to be able to help you, and we want to be able to give you support if you're financially eligible. So at that point, we would just say, fill it out really fast right now.
All right, thank you.
Hey. Hi. If you apply for the scholarship, can you be accepted to be on the show but not get the scholarship?
Yes, that can happen. If you're musically eligible for the program, but we determine that you're not financially eligible, or in some sad cases, if you have failed a lot of classes, you're not academically eligible, then you could be invited to come on the show but not receive the scholarship.
Is it possible for you to try for the scholarship later, like anytime?
It would be, but it'd be pretty rare because, as I mentioned, you usually don't come on the program more than once. So you'd have to be re-invited to appear on From the Top, and your financial or academic situation would need to have changed in order to make you eligible for the scholarship.
Thank you.
What are the costs involved in terms of applying to be on From the Top?
So if you apply for the scholarship, there's no application fee. And if you apply just for the radio program, there's a $55 application fee.
Okay.
No.
So last year, my orchestra program, they had this thing, like From the Top, they had this thing in Chicago where they had like live auditions and stuff. I just want, like live auditions rather than doing like the online thing. I'm just wondering, like, how often do you do those?
Yeah. So we were able to do them a little bit more last year. Basically, every summer we do kind of a tour of live auditions at some of the summer music festivals. So we usually go to Aspen, Interlochen, Boston University Tanglewood Institute, Meadowmount, and then there are a few more that we visit kind of every other year. So we pretty much always do that. And then, we did the Chicago auditions last year. We don't have as many plans for this year, but if we are doing local live auditions, we'll generally announce it on our website. There's a part for live auditions.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, well, if you have an individual question, you're welcome to find me afterwards as well. But thank you all so much for being here, and enjoy the rest of the conference.